Consumer Affairs, which may include the updates pertaining to the department's administrative services, human resources, enforcement, information technology, communications and outreach, as well as legislative, regulatory, and policy matters. Mr. Grafilo.
Thank you, Dr. Gadanadev. Thank you, Executive Officer Kirchmeier, for allowing me this opportunity. An update is a little too formal, and in my view, my main goal today is to introduce myself to the board as the 4-month director to the Department of Consumer Affairs. I'd be remiss if I didn't say hello again, Dr. Krause, Dr. Levine. I'll get to how it is a hello again in my brief comments. Congratulations, Dr. Ganadev, on your re-election to the leadership position here as the board president for this upcoming year. I can't say enough how very much I'm looking forward to working with you and the board in a new role for me. I'm honored that Governor Brown appointed me March 20th of this year. It wasn't part of my plan of 2017, but as I learned more about the opportunity and how it was aligned with my own personal values and beliefs, I obviously jumped at the opportunity. A little bit about myself prior to coming to DCA. I was as legislative staff primarily since 2004, first with the Assembly member out of the East Bay, former Majority Leader Alberto Tarico. He represented the Tri-Cities area, Fremont, Newark, Union City. Then an opportunity presented itself to be Chief of Staff for former Assembly member Warren Furatani. He represented Gardena, California, Los Angeles, parts of Long Beach. And then what I jokingly refer to as a small nonprofit afforded me the opportunity to work as one of their governmental advocates. That small nonprofit I'm referring to is the California Medical Association. I was able to work with CMA for 3 years. Leaving the Capitol, I swore I'd never, I said I'd never swear returning to it, but if I did, it'd have to be for the right person, the right reasons, and that opportunity presented itself in 2012 when current Assembly member Rob Bonta, who's also in the East Bay, was elected. It was icing on the cake. The icing on the cake, in my opinion, in terms of going back in the Capitol, was the historic nature of his election being the first Filipino American ever elected to the California State Legislature. I'm fond of my ethnic community, and being third generation, I felt that if I could not only help his vision for the district, but also his work specific to the Filipino American community, it'd be a great opportunity for me to return to the Capitol. As I mentioned, 2017 of this year presented the opportunity to come to DCA, and as I mentioned, obviously the goal, the mission of DCA is consumer protections. There's 39 programs, as you may know, specific to DCA. These past 4 months, I've done my darndest to try to get a good sense of each of the issues. This is obviously part of it, coming to the various boards. Just this week, I met with HQIU staff. I was at the chiropractic board, swung by the Board of Registered Nursing staff appreciation lunch. This morning I talked to the veterinary board, and then tonight I'm obviously here at the Medical Board of California. So for my self-diagnosed short attention span, it's a great opportunity to say the least. I want to also share with you that similar to what I learned at CMA and specific to the House of Medicine in terms of approaching vaccine issues, vaccine problems, vaccine cases, my approach is going to be one in which I'm going to try to get a multitude of perspectives on the issue. I'm going to try to ensure that much of the information I get is data driven, so that, and I'm going to try to ensure that I'm going to take a deliberative and robust process towards the decision-making process. I believe that in doing so, I'm going to have confidence in the decision. The things that are before us are very complex, and I think we are potentially harming consumers if we're quick to judge. It's so very important that we do take a deliberate process of the issues. I'd also like to mention that as part of my vision for DCA, was mentioned earlier about how California does set the bar in so many different ways. This board does so as well. California has been, oftentimes the example of how we do set the bar on environmental regulations, on other issues, and while we may or may not get the headline specific to how, in fact, DCA is setting the bar specific to consumer protections, I'm not necessarily going to be motivated by grabbing headlines, but I'm going to be motivated by, again, partnering with all of you towards fulfilling the vision of the mission of this board, as well as obviously DCA, and I welcome that. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention a few things about vertical enforcement. Again, in the 4 months that I have been here, this issue has come to my attention quite often. Love the opportunity to try to, again, get a clear assessment of it and hopefully identify ways in which we can improve it. It's been here for 10 years, 12 years now. There's a lot of data that we can glean from, and hopefully come August 1st, there'll be the start of a conversation with Senate B&P Committee. I'm going to be involved in those discussions. Naturally, the insight of the board is going to be key to my information gathering towards what will hopefully be improvements to vertical enforcement. So I'm, again, looking forward to not only working with all of you specific to that issue, but the many others that I'm sure is going to come our way in hopefully my long tenure here at DCA. I'm not one to get in anyone's way specific to a meal, so I will cut my comments there.
Thank you, Mr. Grafilo. Any questions, comments from board members? Dr. Cross.
Welcome, Dean.
Thank you very much.
I think your arrival creates an opportunity. Ms. Kirchmeier and Ms. Lally have been doing a great job of reaching out to other healthcare-related boards. Consider that I think half of the boards in the DCA are healthcare-related. One of the things I learned when I was at the CMA is that physicians can better serve their patients if they come to the common ground of what's in their patient's best interest and spend less time opposing one another. And I think the same is very true with all of our healthcare-related boards under the DCA. So I hope that you will work and enforce the effort that Christine and Ms. Kirchmeier have started. And I'd like to imagine that one day we would have some kind of annual group healthcare board meeting and solve some of the vexing issues in terms of consumer protection regarding healthcare together, because we have much more in common than we do in opposition to one another.
Appreciate you saying that, Dr. Krause. Yes, Ms. Kirchmeier and Christine have been doing a great job related to the healing arts boards. That notion of all healing arts boards maybe meeting annually, or hopefully more often than that, even if appropriate, has been mentioned. And I always welcome opportunities to collaborate to maybe establish best practices amongst the healing arts boards and beyond.
Thank you. Any other comments? Any comments from the audience? Any comments on the phone?
We do have a comment from Eric. Your line is open.
Hi, it's Eric Andrus. I just want to say that I've CC'd Mr. Grafilo on a number of important emails outlining the failures of the medical board, and he hasn't replied to one or taken steps to take any of my issues seriously. As a former associate director of the California Medical Association, an organization whose intent is to protect doctors, I guess it makes sense that he'd side with protecting bad doctors and not listen to consumer concerns. No conflict of interest there. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Andrus. Any other comments?
No further comments from the phone.
Thank you. Thank you, Dean, for coming. Thank you for staying this long. And I would like to have, if board doesn't object, have an adjournment and take the other two items tomorrow?